senators, and representatives, I have the distinguished honor of presenting...
Political decisions often play a significant role in influencing migration patterns and labor distribution. In Stalin's Soviet Union, policies such as internal passports and gulags were tools of political suppression and control. These measures reshaped the movement of people, tying them to specific regions or forcing them into harsh labor camps. In this lesson, we'll explore how internal passports and the gulag system shaped migration and labor during Stalin's era. The gulag system was a network of labor camps established to punish dissenters and exploit forced labor. Under Stalin, these camps became central to political suppression and economic planning. Initially intended for criminals, the gulags became a tool to suppress political dissent and punish perceived enemies of the state. By the 1930s, gulags held millions of prisoners, including kulaks, intellectuals, and minority groups. Prisoners were sent to remote regions such as Siberia and the Arctic, where conditions were harsh and resources were scarce. These areas were chosen because they required large labor forces to exploit their natural resources or complete infrastructure projects. The Belomor Canal, constructed between 1931 and 1933 by 170,000 laborers, had an estimated 25,000 deaths due to overwork, malnutrition, and disease. Despite its human cost, the canal had limited long-term utility. Other projects, such as railways, mining operations, and timber industries, relied heavily on forced labor, making gulags a cornerstone of Stalin's industrial strategy. Life in the gulags was brutal, with long working hours, inadequate food, and freezing temperatures. High mortality rates highlighted the expendability of forced labor under Stalin's policies. To further control labor distribution and restrict migration, Stalin's government implemented an internal passport system in the 1930s. These documents tied individuals to specific locations, making unauthorized movement illegal. Rural peasants, especially those affected by collectivization, were often denied passports to prevent them from fleeing to cities in search of better opportunities. The purpose of the system was to ensure that enough workers remained in collective farms and rural areas to meet agricultural quotas and to prevent unregulated migration that could disrupt Stalin's centralized economic plans. Internal passports created a two-tiered population, those with mobility and those effectively trapped in rural poverty. Many who attempted to move without proper documentation faced arrest or deportation to gulags. By limiting voluntary migration, the state ensured that gulags and industrial projects had a steady supply of workers. The combination of gulags and internal passports had far-reaching effects on Soviet labor and society. Gulag labor contributed to key infrastructure projects, but often at the expense of efficiency and human life. Internal passports prevented a free labor market, creating imbalances in rural and urban labor distribution. The gulag system instilled fear and distrust, silencing opposition to Stalin's policies. Restricted movement exacerbated social divides, trapping many in cycles of poverty. These policies left a legacy of trauma and centralized control that influenced Soviet governance long after Stalin's death. The use of internal passports and gulags during Stalin's rule highlights how political decisions can shape migration patterns and labor distribution. While these policies were intended to control and mobilize the population for economic purposes, their human cost was immense. By studying this era, we gain a deeper understanding of the balance between state power and individual freedoms, a theme that resonates in discussions of governance today.